Oops. What's up, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast with me, Trevor, and Kyle. And we are super lucky and grateful we got to see it through, guys. Brian, David, thank you. Thank you so much for jumping on with us.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. Of course. So, first off, I don't know if you guys listened to last week's episode where we actually talked about you. Even after Kyle's insane opening, if you guys got through that, like, thank you. Like, we'll start there because Kyle got off the rails a bit.
We'll try not to do that with you guys, but yeah, we are very grateful when people want to talk to us because we're just a couple idiots, and this has been really fun to get to know a lot of bands from around the country and different sounds and stuff. So, I mean, we'll just kind of jump in and ask you guys about that, but like see it through. Dropped an EP this year, right? So what was the process of like getting this band started and stuff? Because it seems like you're pretty new, right?
Yeah. So as far as like actually recording the record and starting to play shows and everything, it's very new. I mean, we just started doing that at the start of January. So trying to remember, it was like one of the first weeks of January. We went to the studio. We actually recorded with Zachary Rippey up in Mesa, Arizona at Sound Signal Audio. And then after that, like shortly after that, we played our first show, and then we've been playing shows for the past few months. Obviously the record, came out just a little bit over 2 weeks ago. And, but David and I actually started the band a few years ago, actually, like when I was first planning on moving back to Tucson. And we sent a bunch of voice memos. We did like a ton of phone calls, just writing music, planning out like what we wanted to do with this band. And then, took a little while to find some members once I moved back. But last year we got Adam and John, and things have been going, like lightning speed ever since. So it's been awesome.
Sweet. So how do you guys know each other?
You want to answer that, Brian?
Sure, yeah. Oh, you want me to? Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
A long time ago. We knew each other through hardcore and just like seeing each other at shows and everything. I think we technically met after a show that David played with one of his previous bands. It was Wrong Idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the Underground with Stick Together.
Yep.
I don't remember what year that was. It was like earlier 2010s. But yeah, and then after that, I was actually I was working at Urban Outfitters here in town, and David was looking for another leader for Zoomies, which is where he was working at the time. So he actually hit me up and like asked me if I wanted to interview, and then I think like we really started to get to know each other through working together.
That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you played in bands before then, David, right?
I did, yeah. So one thing you said a little bit back, so I was just checking my phone. We have voice memos all the way back to 2021. So we've done a lot in a short amount of time as a band, but it feels like forever for Brian and I because we started working on these songs like 3 or 4 years ago. I played, he mentioned Wrong Idea was my band I was in at the time, but I also played in a band called Step Aside from Tucson too, youth crew, straight edge hardcore stuff.
That's awesome. So like, I mean, we're from Salt Lake City, we felt like we grew up in this like weird little pocket of hardcore and unfortunately like didn't experiment much with stuff outside of Utah, but like Tucson feels like even bigger of a bubble, but I see videos all the time of like shows in Tucson. So is it like a pretty cool scene out there?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Brian. I want to pitch in there. Yeah. It's crazy. The turnout at shows is amazing. Like we were just talking about it, but there'll be like all local shows that are completely packed. Like the enthusiasm for hardcore music and supporting each other is just through the roof right now. And it's contagious.
That's awesome. Yeah. So like you said, the shows are completely packed. Is most of the stuff coming out like what you guys are doing, the youth crew style, just traditional hardcore, or is it more beat down? Like what's coming out in Tucson right now?
Yeah, primarily like beat down and heavier hardcore. I think as far as like Tucson goes, and actually Arizona as a whole, there's no one else that comes to mind that's doing like the lane that we've been going down. So, I mean, Yeah, it's a lot. I feel like I don't know like how far back this goes, but as long as like I've been living in Arizona, it seems like heavier hardcore has always been what's like primarily going on out here. Other than like some of the bands that David did, and I think there was a band back in the '80s that was like playing with a bunch of youth crew bands, Wind of Change. But other than that, I mean, yeah, it's been mostly like
There's been a couple of other melodic bands. Run with the Hunted is from Arizona. Where Eagles Dare was a huge hardcore band. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. They're from Phoenix, Arizona. Wind of Change, who we mentioned, which is kind of like Super Touch-esque. Like they were all the way back in the 80s. But yeah, I mean, through the time that I've been involved with music, Arizona's been predominantly like heavier hardcore music.
Is there a lot of like collaboration to say with like Phoenix, or the scene's pretty like distinct? Because I mean, coming from Texas, it's like Dallas to Houston is 4 hours, and it feels different even though you're in the same state, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at it like roughly like an hour and a half drive back and forth. So I mean,
close.
A lot of the bands are like it's definitely like two scenes in a sense, but then a lot of the bands and a lot of the people that go to shows all know each other, and like Phoenix bands will come down here a lot and play, and vice versa. So it does feel like it feels pretty connected, honestly. At least right now. Like I don't know, over the years I'm sure there's been differences, but right now it feels like a lot of people know each other and are all friends.
Nice.
It's awesome. One other thing about that, I know that like there's a popular band from Texas called Will to Live, and they just did a run in Mexico. They have like I guess a pretty big following like Monterey. Does Arizona get that same type of like, is there crossover into Mexico and stuff? Do you guys see that very much?
We've gotten asked to play in Mexico. We're not super familiar with any of the bands there right now, and like obviously California is close, so there's a lot of like connection with that. There's a bunch of bands from Albuquerque, New Mexico coming to Tucson, so
cool.
Yeah, a lot of surrounding areas for sure, but we're not super familiar with the bands in Mexico, though that is something we definitely want to do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that'd be way sick. So it sounds like there's a lot of parallels between Salt Lake and the Arizona scene. Like Salt Lake is like, we grew up with heavy music as well. Like that's what we cut our teeth on. That's what a lot of like the old hardcore bands were and everything like that. And that's what the new bands are starting to replicate. There's definitely like a very heavy, darker hardcore sound as well. So when you guys were growing up, we were just talking to Brian. He said he's about the same age as us. What were you guys listening to? What did you guys get into? Because David, if you're putting in like youth crew style bands, that faster hardcore stuff, what led you down that pathway if there's a lot of beatdown and heavy music that's typically dominating the scene?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was pulling ticket stubs out of my garage recently, and it was a trip to see that I saw Agnostic Front 21 years ago. Feels like another lifetime.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely started with heavier music too. So my kind of like intro to like punk hardcore was like Misfits and AFI. I had a neighbor that I grew up with who was into like heavier music, and there was like different phases in Arizona where like the Face Down Records bands were really popular, or Death Wish bands were coming all the time, or Reaper. So before I played in Step Aside and Wrong Idea, I played in a band called Condemned, which was like heavier hardcore, like New York hardcore style. So I definitely like also, even though our band is very inspired by Youth Crew, love New York hardcore, Breakdown, Madball, Agnostic Front, Leeway, Cro-Mags. So I feel like that's what I started out playing because that's what everybody else was interested in. And the Youth Crew bands kind of only formed as I found people who were more interested in it. And I always liked that music, but like Brian talked about, the challenging part about bands is finding members and getting people to come together and like be on the same page stylistically and want to play the same type of music too. So yeah, I mean, I always loved that heavier type of hardcore, and I still do now, and played in bands like that before too.
And what about you, Brian?
So are we talking like just in my life or out here in Arizona?
So
yeah, I mean, just in general.
Yeah, because I think that like vocally, like I think it's, because I think musically you can bleed that line a lot easier, right? Like you can tiptoe, like you can play faster, thrashier stuff, and then have big breakdowns and New York crossover, like Judge behind you there, like they were the kings of that, right? Like,
for sure.
You know what I'm talking about? But like I feel like vocally, you have to like make that distinction from the beginning, right? You're either I'm going to do like this lower tone scream that's going to be just super heavy, or I'm going to do the higher toned one that's going to be more youth crewy and stuff.
Yelling.
So like, yeah, was that was that a conscious effort for you of like, I like this music and I want my vocals to sound like that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of where the best place to start would be. I mean, so as far as what I listen to goes, I mean, I listen to a very wide range of genres. And actually, for me personally, Youth Crew was when we're talking hardcore. Youth Crew was actually one of the styles that I didn't get into until like later on. Like just like to start things off, like the first two bands that I remember really falling in love with, and like that was like my introduction to hardcore, were Terror and Comeback Kid. So Comeback Kid, definitely as an influence for me for sure.
Yeah.
I know that his vocals are a little bit, more screaming than mine, but I think like really where that influence comes from is probably a lot of the other genres that I listen to. I love a lot of post-hardcore. I listen to a lot of emo. Yeah, there's so many different genres to name, but I know that like something that is really important to me and something that I know David agrees with, is that we want to be a band where there's like sing-alongs all throughout. Like we want people to understand what I'm saying. We want people to know the words, learn the lyrics. So I think having that clarity, is something that just makes sense. And I think like as far as like yelling compared to screaming goes, like that just comes naturally to me. So it just felt right.
Awesome. I mean, it sounds good. Like it sounds right. I feel like, yeah, there's like bands that you listen to where you're like, I don't know. You can tell what they're trying to do, but it just doesn't fit. But like your guys' sound just fits really well. And David, I did want to say that like it's a breath of fresh air to hear people reference AFI. Cause seriously, like we talked to all these East Coast bands and like they all got that like New York punk hardcore influence and stuff. But like, man, we grew up on California, fast AFI Ignite type hardcore. So heck yeah. Thank you.
For sure.
So let me ask you, just like, because Brian, you just mentioned that you listen to a bunch of different genres. So for the both of you, what are like just your top 3 overall favorite bands? Like it doesn't have to be for this style of music or anything. Just overall, who are your top? Maybe it's not even 3. Give me like 1 or 2 kind of thing. Favorite bands that you guys just go to.
Yeah. I mean, I can go. I've had this figured out for a while. So
Okay.
actually, none of them are hardcore at all. So actually, my favorite artist of all time is Elliott Smith.
Okay.
And then for bands, Smashing Pumpkins and Yo La Tengo.
Okay.
That's my top 3. So
solid.
Do you want to hear hardcore bands or just any style?
No, I like just like your top 3, because like I'm really curious. It seems like a lot of metal and hardcore people, like, yes, we all love it, right? It's all something that we listen to and we go to and stuff like that. But oftentimes it's not the main influence that you're typically pulling from. So like hearing Smashing Pumpkins and Elliott Smith, like that's awesome. Like that's great. So like David, for you, like top 3, it doesn't just all time. Doesn't have to be hardcore.
Or maybe do a hardcore and a non-hardcore band.
Okay. I think my favorite musician period is Sam Cooke. And I just love 60s soul music. I feel like feel and emotion in music is what I'm trying to achieve. And I feel like that really came across. The lyrics are powerful. The singing is beautiful. And so if there was any record I'm going to run with forever, it's Sam Cooke. In terms of hardcore, though, 1A, 1B for me is Youth of Today and Gorilla Biscuits, no question.
Okay. Sick. Nice.
Those are solid.
And so how did you find Gorilla Biscuits and Youth of Today?
Oh man, that's a good question. I'm trying to think of like what the bridge was. I definitely found a lot of bands through looking at records and reading like thank you lists, seeing people wearing shirts. I feel like for my era, that was kind of like the main way. There was also like a lot of like downloading apps during that time, LimeWire, and I don't remember the others, but I remember you could see like people's like library of music they had. So I feel like just gravitated towards like band names, and I was like, this sounds awesome, or I saw this artwork online, what is this? And I would just download it from there and get to it. I don't really remember how I got introduced to Youth of Today, but I just know that like the message and the lyrics, like really like spoke to me. And even now, like when I read the lyric sheet, I'm like, how did they come up with so many songs like this that are like so powerful too? So those bands probably weren't first. I think it was probably 2000s bands like Have Heart and Blue Monday and Champion and the rivalry bands. And maybe I backtracked from there. It's so hard to remember because it's
Okay.
been so long, but that was probably my path.
Sick. So was that your introduction to straight edge as well? Or what introduced you guys to straight edge?
Brian, you can go ahead. I have to think
Yeah,
about
for
that
me,
for a second.
I think I was like probably like in 8th grade, and I think it was Throwdown for me.
Yeah, no, it was Throwdown for me too. I was just thinking
Yeah.
that. I was like remembering like shows I went to during that time period. And I think I was watching a lot of Hellfest DVDs and they used to do the interviews with
Sick.
like the band sitting on the couch. And Throwdown was probably X'd Up. And I feel like that was kind of like what got me to dive into it.
Yeah, I can't remember. So like, and I was a little bit late, even like late to listening to Throwdown. Like the first CD that I got was Vendetta, and I don't remember. It must have like this was definitely during the times where you get like a little sampler or some sort of like extra with the CD. And I mean, I don't know for certain, but I want to say there was like a DVD that came like in the back of the CD or something, and it was like them maybe talking about like the recording process of the record and just like some more like deeper things about what the band stands for. And that's like David said, like that's definitely when I first through some sort of interview or something like that is where I found out about straight edge and that they were straight edge, and I had never even heard about that before that. So
Sick. And then like obviously from what I've heard, right? This is all alleged, right? But there's pretty big straight edge crews and stuff like that down there. So like were you introduced like through friends as well to like associate at shows, or like were you kind of just like I'm doing this for myself? Like how did your like social aspect of like straight edge kind of get introduced to you?
David, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been a lot of periods throughout the time that I participated in music where a lot of people were straight edge and then a lot of people weren't. So I feel like there were like time frames where like a lot of my friends were, and maybe that was also like a belonging thing during that time period too. It definitely like was more of an individual choice though. I can speak to that. So my situation growing up, I feel like really pushed me towards that, which like a lot of things in life, it's like I kind of saw like what I didn't want to do and how I didn't want to live my life. And I feel like, yeah, the bands having the message was important, but then also like the direct experience with like what I was going through in my life made me kind of like gravitate that way more.
Sweet. Brian?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think I always got to say Have Heart because I was a junior in high school. I specifically remember this, and like I actually before I go into that, like I've only been straight edge. I claimed straight edge in 2013, so it's been
Okay.
about 12 years. But before that, like I lived a completely different life. Like in high school, like I was all about like partying and like I smoked a ton of weed and I was like totally opposite of how I've been living. But I think like when I was in junior in high school, when my friends introduced me to Have Heart, and same kind of thing. Like there was a YouTube video or something I was watching and Pat Flynn was talking about it, and I was just like, it's funny because like from that time, I knew that what he was saying was how I wanted to live my life deep down. But I think I was just so influenced by everything that was going on around me and like what all my friends were doing that like I really like kept partying all of those years up until like a few months after I was 21. So definitely Have Heart was, it was Throwdown that first introduced me to straight edge. And then Have Heart was the one where I was like, oh, like this is like actually like how I want to live.
So when you claimed and when you did all that stuff, like, did it start to alienate people from you?
It did actually, yeah. Like are you talking about like when I claimed? Yeah. So
Or just like not necessarily because you claim straight edge, but if you're partying, right? You're smoking weed, you're drinking, you're doing this stuff, and all of a sudden one night you're hanging out with the homies, and it's just like, hey, let's go smoke a bowl, and you're like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah, no, there was a whole lot of that. I mean, I did that for months and months, and like I feel like over that like maybe the first half year or so that I was straight edge, I lost a lot of friends, or people that I thought were friends. The ones that like were deeper than partying definitely stayed in my life, and I had a lot of friends that I partied with the most, actually, that I also shared like a strong interest like with music and other things that kept us like friends. But yeah, there's like probably countless people that I thought I was friends with that I just stopped hanging out with. And it wasn't even on, not to like throw anybody under the bus, but like it wasn't even on, like my choice. Like I was always down to still come out and hang out, and like,
Right.
it just was one of those things where it just started to trickle off. And yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that you asked that question because that is reality both ways too, and I think that it's unfortunate that you like lose connection with people over not having things in common anymore. But I definitely experienced that a lot in my younger life, and no judgment to my friends that were living differently, but I think it's hard to hang around something you're not interested. Not just that, but really anything. And I feel like yeah, I moved on from a lot of friendships during that time period because we were just going in different directions.
It is definitely weird. It's an interesting dynamic that'll take place. I mean, and listen, like, I'm not saying that it only happens when you go straight edge. Like, how many times did we hear someone broke edge and all of a sudden, like, they were alienated from everyone who they were hanging out with in, like, the straight edge groups and stuff. So, like, it goes both ways. And it's too bad. It is really cool, like, in the scene right now in Salt Lake, there's a huge straight edge movement again. Like, it's all kind of coming back around and everything, but it doesn't feel like it did when we were teenagers and stuff. Like, everyone's hanging out together, everyone's chilling. Like, it's a kind of a different time, it feels like. Do you guys feel like that too?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I wanted to say something on that too, like something that's like really important to me in the band. And I don't want to speak for all my bandmates on this, but we want to make sure everyone feels included. Like while we make that decision, and I believe in that, and I think that's what's best for me personally. We don't want to make other people feel like they can't partake in what we're doing because they don't associate with that label. And that's a huge thing in our messaging is like everybody can be involved, no judgment on how anyone else lives their life. Like we do that because we believe in that and that's what's right for us. But we're not telling anyone else how to live.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
Awesome.
See, I claimed edge to try and get away from Trevor because he was sniffing gluten. It is funny though, because like I went and saw Obituary and Terror, that tour a few weeks ago when it came through, and like there were a bunch of kids that I saw like X'd up and stuff, and I went up and talked to one of them, and I was like, "Oh, like how long have you claimed edge?" And he's like, "Nah, like the guards, like I don't drink. I'm like under 18, so they X'd my hand." I was like, "Dang, they do that like unironically." I didn't know that. I thought like I didn't know they actually did that anymore, So then I looked like an idiot because he wasn't straight up. But it is, I don't know, it is cool. It's something that we've talked about more with bands. I think Salt Lake City had such a bad rap with some of the straight edge stuff that went on that we just kind of felt like it was one of those, hush hush type topics. There were shows where like we weren't allowed to go into if you wore a straight edge shirt and stuff, and
Really? Wow.
And I think the attitude has changed a lot. I think that it has a lot more positive mentality, which is funny because I don't think the music has reflected that yet. Right. Yeah. Like usually a lot of the straight edge stuff comes with like Youth Crew, PMA, like positive mentality and stuff. And so I wanted to ask that like about you guys, because this is a different sound, right? This is, I guess, what you would what I would put together is more of like that go hand in hand and stuff. So like, how was that thought process for your music? Like, obviously I think we talked about it a little bit, like it was a conscious effort, but were you like, this is 100% the route I want to go. I only want to play like this melodic hardcore type stuff. How did you come about with the idea for this band and the sound?
You want to go, Brian, or me?
Yeah, I mean, David, I would like to, I think I need to be probably reminded on like how you started writing more melodic riffs way back when, like a few years ago. But I know that like, yeah, maybe if you want to start with that.
Yeah, I think like sonically, the bands I was in before, the parts were easier to play. I think part of that is just like growing as a player, like 20 years into playing guitar now. I'm like, wow, I can do these things. So like that was probably something I wanted to explore a long time ago and just wasn't capable of because a lot of hardcore musicians just play barely enough to be able to write a record. And I was definitely one of those too. And I mean, even when we were talking about the previous bands that I did, like I always loved bands like Go It Alone and Have Heart. And yeah, I think like the melodic part, that being part of it, was really just about the music having a lot of feel and emotion. And that's kind of central in what we're trying to do sonically, is like music is about expression. It's about getting out like what we feel. And the goal is to like, yeah, stir and move other people in the same way too. And I think like putting a little bit of like melody and trying to make the songs have that aspect to it, hopefully can accomplish that. And that's part of our goal. I think it also just makes the music sound more dynamic to have a little bit more like intricate riffs. So that was something I always wanted to achieve. And yeah, like when we first started working on music, I feel like I was listening to the first step a lot, and that's kind of what we were going for. So when I play those voice memos now, it's cool how it's evolved.
Yeah.
And Brian hasn't mentioned this yet, but this is actually his first band singing. So I feel like there's been kind of a lot of like, yeah, which is awesome. Like kudos to him. He did an incredible job. I've never seen anything like that with anyone else that played music before. So I feel like we kind of had this aim and this idea of what we wanted to do. But then as we started working on it and putting things together, like the direction just became a little bit clearer. So we had an idea in mind. And then when I listen to the finished product now, I'm like, wow, that's pretty different than how we started. But yeah, we definitely talked a lot about Go It Alone and Have Heart and Blue Monday. And bands like Lifelong Tragedy. And so I feel like that influenced the guitar writing on What's Behind Us Never Fades a lot.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, I've said this 100 times on this podcast that I'm like a huge sucker for melodic hardcore. So when Trevor sent me this album, I was just instantly like, yup, this is exactly what I'm looking for. One thing we talked about in the episode last week, when we, kind of did our opinion of what we thought, is we said that like, even though it's melodic, it still felt like a little slower than some of those other bands that you're talking about. Is that by design as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the goal is to have the music have groove to it. And so that's like, when you talk about slower, that's what I'm trying to do as like a writer on guitar. I definitely think too, like in a lot of music, downbeat or fast parts can be really boring and kind of just like filler. And so that's like always one of my challenges to the band as like writers, is like, if we can make the fast parts interesting and get people to sing along and have those sound powerful and really like stand out on the record, I think we're doing it right. So I don't know if that's what you're referencing. Just even like when you are playing faster, it's kind of like a steadier rhythm. That was definitely like an intentional focus on that. And I think really, and Brian said this earlier, just trying to make the songs be anthems that people want to learn the words to and sing along.
Absolutely. I loved the description of groovy. Like that, that's really the perfect way to put it. It absolutely fits. And I love that. I think I think that's perfect. It's maybe like the introduction to a new genre of like groovy hardcore.
Yeah.
So, Brian, lyrically, you said this was your first band. Like, is it hard to write lyrics and have the cadence to a more melodic style of hardcore? Because a lot of the faster punk stuff, like, man, you're just yelling, right? Like, you're as much as you can breathe, you're yelling and stuff, but like when this is slower and groovier, like, does that make it harder for you as you're writing lyrics and trying to get that cadence down?
With our band, like we haven't, written anything like super fast, so it's like, I don't really know what that experience would be like on that end. I would imagine though that with the riffs that David writes and the tempo that we have in these songs, I would probably prefer singing over that speed than something like super fast. I've never even tried to do like the super fast vocals before. So, and then as far as like lyrically goes, I mean, David and I have actually worked on a lot of the lyrics together, and there's a lot of time that we put into like, actually structuring it out and making sure that like the vocal patterns match the music as best as they can. And we're very intentional about how each line is pronounced.
So let me ask you then, if you guys are working on lyrics together, how does that process work? So like, does one of you essentially like script it out, like the idea that you want, and then you'll go through individually together and be like, okay, I like this line, but let's adjust it so it says this because it'll flow a little bit better. Because like my thoughts are different than Kyle's thoughts, right? So like meshing those two, you guys have to be on pretty well the same page.
Yeah. I mean, I would
Yeah.
say like the entire vision that we have for the band and everything that we want to stand for and everything that we want to express through our music, we definitely are on the same exact page. So that makes it really easy. I mean, I'm trying to remember, like, I wish I had a better memory of every single song and how each one came to life as far as the lyrics go. But I do know there were definitely times where, like, David would have like a whole verse written and then maybe like I add in a chorus or vice versa. Like, and I think like for me, like, it was like reading his lyrics, thinking about how it made me feel, and then that kind of gave me the creativity to like add in my own lines. And then because like we see things pretty eye to eye, I think it just kind of works out that way. But I don't know. Do you agree with
Yeah,
that, David?
yeah, to add a little bit more onto that. So I know our record just came out, but again, we finished it a while ago, right? And so we're kind of already back at it and working on new stuff. So I can speak to that a little bit more. So as we're working on new songs, one thing Brian and I did is we kind of like drafted up titles of like song names that we like. We have a list of like topical things that we want to cover. And so yeah, writing music is really weird. It's like sometimes we start with lyrics, sometimes you hear the riff or you're remembering something from somewhere else. I don't understand that all completely, but I think like we try to get an idea, whether it's like getting a couple of riffs or getting some lyrics down. Sometimes the lyrics help figure out the guitar parts and vice versa, but almost every song is almost written in that way, right? Like where it's just guitar and singing first, and then we bring in the rest of the band and figure everything out after that. But yeah, I mean, it's really easy. It's crazy because sharing creative responsibility with other people could be extremely challenging. But I feel like Brian and I had so much conversation about what we wanted to say and how we want to present the band that, like, honestly, I'm really fortunate. It's really easy to work with him on stuff.
Yeah, and I would completely agree with that. I mean, it hasn't been hard at all.
I love hearing that because we've talked to a lot of bands and I've heard from a lot of like different musicians that it tends to be like one guy, right? He's doing the lyrics, he's doing the guitar work and all that kind of stuff. And then he's just like, okay, guys, here it is. Like, learn the song. And then I'm going to hop up there and I'm going to do the vocals. You know what I mean? So, like, it's really cool to hear like the collaborative nature that's still taking place because we were in a stupid high school band growing up. Like, we just did our thing as well. And I felt like that's what it was. We were in our friend's basement. Someone would bring the lyrics and be like, oh, I like that, but change that and things like that. It felt so different. It felt like fresh, exciting, and stuff like that. I don't know if I'd be as excited if it was just like one dude who's just writing everything. And it's like, okay, here you go. We're doing this. So,
I mean, my bandmates are probably going to laugh at that. Our band is like that still somewhat, right? I mean, like I definitely do a lot of the writing and have a lot of the ideas, but playing in a bunch of bands, like I think for me, it's like I want the other guys to be enthusiastic and excited about that. And like it's hard to get up there and sing someone else's song. And our songs are vague enough where like they're not specifically about Brian's life or my life where they could have meaning to like multiple people. But yeah, I think it's like you come with like this idea and then it's like, how do you get everybody's input and perspective to like shape it into the best thing possible, which gets the other guys in the band more excited about it. And I mean, we want to have longevity. I feel like that's just learning from like playing music. Like, hey, you want to be around for years. Like everybody's got to like feel valued and like they can give input in what you're doing.
Yeah.
But we are slightly like the first example you gave. I don't want to lie.
Right. Well,
it happens. Look, Trevor says that like the guy that wrote the guitar parts, I played bass in it. I don't know how to play bass. He just tabbed it up on a white sheet of paper and I just like memorized it. So like I was just happy to be up there playing with them because I don't know how to play an instrument. So yeah. One thing I wanted to ask. So the album came out on New Age. So how did that connection come about? Do you know the guys there? Like, yeah. How did that come about?
We don't know the guys there. So
that's incredible. I just want to say that's incredible being a brand new band and first EP out on New Age. Like kudos to you guys. That shows a lot.
Yeah.
And Brian dropped, but he'll come back.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, thank you. First of all, we appreciate that. And we're super grateful to be a part of a label with that kind of history. I mean, we definitely had like a focused effort to make sure we got a good recording and get art that we loved and have this like cohesive package. And we sent it out to labels, old school, like press packages, basically, and said like, hey, here's some background on the band. Here's what we're about. Here's our music. But I really just believe like nothing in life is done individually, and there's always people helping you along the way. And so a good friend of mine, Hav, his band was part of New Age Records, so he helped make that introduction for us. And then it just kind of happened organically from there. I did not know Mike, the owner of New Age, before, but have really gotten to know him through this process. And he was in a ton of incredible bands. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those, but
yeah,
it's crazy to be able to work with him on our music.
Yeah, that's really cool. So what band was your buddy in that made the introduction? Sorry, what?
Are you familiar with them? Yeah, they're on New Age too.
Yeah. So the intro song for us is a Crow Killer song, and they're on New Age. So our good friend, his name's Josh. He's the one who started the podcast with us. He's the guitar player for Crow Killer. So we've known of New Age for quite some time.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, super sick there. So
you brought up the artwork. I freaking love the album cover. So
thank you.
How did that come about? I like asking that because us old guys feel like the visualness and the artistic part of this matters to us. It's not just a click on Spotify anymore, like I care about the album cover. So how did that one come about?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that question. So when we were working on the band, I feel like when I look at the art, it looks consistent with the bands from the 2000s that I mentioned earlier. So, I mean, that was definitely like a big inspiration. I think like we were trying to figure out like, how do we have artwork that's like symbolic of like change or growth or transformation? So we kind of had this vision of like somebody hanging out under a tree and like the leaves falling. And Brian had introduced me to Bane, Don't Wait Up recently.
Yeah.
And I love the record, but the art is beautiful too. And I feel like they just did a great job with like putting that whole thing together. And so Dan McCarthy actually did the art for Bane, Don't Wait Up, which led us to his art. And that's how we ended up with that image for our cover.
It's awesome. It really is a cool album cover.
He's the one who did it for you guys then.
He did. It was a painting he had already done. And so we had reached out to him to do like a commission for us. And he's a busy guy because he also works with like the national park designs and does a bunch of stuff outside of hardcore. And so he kind of sent over a portfolio of stuff that was unused. And he was like, if you guys want to make any of this happen for your art, let me know. And that image was in there. And yeah, Brian, you can weigh in more, but I feel like it just was exactly like what we were looking for.
Yeah. I mean, sorry guys, I had a connection here, so I'm back now, obviously. But
You're
I
good, dude.
answered the first part of that question. I know we're talking about the album artwork, but
how it came together. And yeah, I do want to add also, Dan did the illustration, but One Trick Pony, who's also a really popular hardcore graphic designer, did the layout and all of the text on it.
Oh, sick.
We were just talking about, Brian, how the art came together, or where we got the vision for that.
Oh yeah. I mean, David might have already mentioned this, but I mean, we couldn't decide for the longest time, like if we wanted to use like an actual photograph or if we wanted to get an illustration done. We went back and forth a bunch, but I think like once we were really starting to like I, kind of showed David, or I told him to listen to Don't Wait Up by Bane. And like, we just like both looking at that artwork, we loved it. And we wanted to get something like that. And we're like, oh, well, like could be a long shot, but let's reach out to him and see like what the possibilities are. And, as David mentioned, it's like we couldn't necessarily get something commissioned at that time, but it just like he gave us the opportunity to look through his whole portfolio and said, if you like anything, like, it's all yours. And it's crazy because like I don't think we could have found something better. Like as soon as we saw that, at least I'll speak for myself. Like immediately I was like, that's got to be the one.
Agreed.
I mean, it looks, again, we're going to say it multiple times. It looks fantastic. Like the first thing I thought of was Have Heart, the things we carry. It's just like, it's very reminiscent of that. It feels good. I even said in our episode, like, I would just want a poster of this, like a nice poster would look super solid. And I was listening to the Garza pod the other day, and they had the guy from the Melvins on there. And one thing he said is all of the Melvin albums, it always is in very clear block, bold letters, the title of their band. I love See It Through, very clean, easy to read. Like it looks so nice. So you said One Trick Pony was the one who helped with a lot of like that design?
Yeah, he did that logo, which was like inspired by like a verbal assault text. I don't know if you're familiar with that band. So we had kind of like some inspiration on that. And then he did the insert, the back cover of the jacket, the labels. And that actually is not out yet. But if you like the cover, I'm excited for you to see the rest of the record.
Sick.
It's beautiful and he did a great job on it.
No, pumped for that. So cool. I was poking through your guys' Instagrams. When are you guys announcing the New Balance sponsorship?
Brian, go ahead.
At this point, never. It's funny because we were that just happened like organically. Like we all just love New Balance sneakers, and it's just like I think at one point we all just we were just all wearing them, and then people actually started to notice and like comment on it. So like for like the past however many months now, we've just been writing it out, and like we've just been like leaning into it, and we've all of us have worn them every show. But you know, these guys are trying to switch it up now. So
yeah, it's become a joke in our practice that we like have a exclusive contract with New Balance. So I've been wearing Nike lately to challenge that because I always got to some feathers. But it's like a joke in our group text. Like Brian has sent some like Nike sandals, and he was like, maybe we should wear these next show. So it's kind of like a point of friction in our band right now.
If you guys are like doing like band packages and stuff and sending them to labels, send one to New Balance. I'm sure there's someone there who likes hardcore. You guys can get it. Come on.
Yeah. We have a saying in our band that if you don't ask, the answer's always no. So, I mean, maybe we just got to throw it out there to New Balance and see if it can come together.
What Speed's got that like partnership with, what is it, Foot Locker or something? Like
Reebok or something.
Reebok.
I don't know the model, but they did like they did promotion for like an Air Max model.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right, New Balance. We'll clip this and we'll send it to New Balance and be like, "What up?"
Appreciate you.
Maybe we can get you guys to want to keep wearing them.
Yeah,
we're gonna like edit it. We'll superimpose like New Balance posters behind you guys. Like we got you. We got you.
Well, what we'll do? I think this is like the sales guy in me. We'll do half of it to Nike, and then the other half to Reebok. And we'll be like, "This is the up and coming band, fight for them," you know, and then you're guaranteed to get like a sweet sponsorship, you know, because they don't want to lose.
That could be.
So,
well, I don't know. I'm sure you guys might have seen, but we actually have a pre-order for a shirt up right now, and it's a mental rip, so it's got the Nikes on it. And I'm somebody who and I'm also somebody who likes to wear our merch a lot. So it's like I can't be wearing New Balance with the Nike on the shirt anyways, so I'm gonna have to wear Nikes now too.
Listen, I've got 2 of your guys' shirts sitting in my mailbox. I haven't gone down to pick them up yet, but I got the confirmation that they're here. So snagged a couple of those.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
We were talking about trying to come out and see you guys when you play within these walls. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys been to that before?
No.
We have not.
Yeah, we're super excited to be a part of that. Who do you guys want to see on that?
So my number one band I have not seen is Contention that I want to see right now.
Oh, right. You mentioned that.
So good. And we were able to talk to those guys. They were awesome. So like, I would love to see that. We saw Bane at Furnace Fest last year. I haven't seen God's Hate, so that'd be fun, but Such Gold also. Yeah. Such Gold is amazing.
I second that. Yeah. And you guys, obviously. So
yeah.
Oh, well,
until you make it run out in Texas. So
yeah. So we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, hopefully. With that, you know, I did want to ask, like, what, you know, you mentioned new music. What about other shows, other tours? What's the goal for 2025?
So our next show, which we actually just jumped on, is at Che Cafe in San Diego with What Counts, Abstain, Gaining Ground, and About Face. So we're excited about that. We love those bands. Che Cafe is legendary. I've played there before, but my bandmates haven't. So I'm really excited to share that experience with them. Brian actually booked What Counts in Tucson the following day. So we're playing with them. Then we have a couple of other like scattered gigs so far booked throughout the rest of the year. And then within these walls, but I think in between there, the focus is really continuing to work on new music in the background. And we're kind of like brainstorming our next release. We definitely want to tour more. So like Brian's from the Midwest. I think that's something we're going to try to plan, is flying out there and asking to play with one of our favorite bands out there. But yeah, I mean, really just promoting the record, and I think trying to get as many ears on it as possible.
So do you think it'll be another EP, or are you guys going to try to go for full length?
So as of right now, I think like we probably will do a shorter release. Just because like we're really inspired and motivated to write music right now. And I feel like that is more realistic for us. I've actually never been part of doing a full length record before. And that's something I would love to accomplish in this band. But yeah, it's hard to imagine being able to come up with 8 to 10 songs that are different and like really like our best work. So that's something I want to like give time to, because you guys asked about writing earlier, and I feel like writing and creativity isn't something you can force. So like these bands who go in the studio and they're there for 8 weeks and they write and record a record and it comes out amazing. Like I'm just blown away by that, because for me, creativity doesn't work that way, right? Like sometimes I sit down and a whole song comes out. Other times it's like I play for 3 hours and I'm like, nope, that's no good. I got to throw it away. I might be out riding my bike and hear a riff and I'm like, I got to voice memo this. So the point is I want to give it that time to be able to really do it in an important way. And that's something we talk about a lot in our band too, is like not putting out too much music too quickly, or just in general. Because the bands that I talked about that I really love, I feel like because they don't have 150 songs in their discography, that's part of how everyone learns all of their music. And I think that's like an important thing and what we want to try to do too. So in a long-winded way, we probably will do another short release first, but after that, the goal is to do a full-length LP.
Sick. The way that What's Behind Us Never Fades flowed together, it was awesome. Like it was 5 songs straight through, everything just kind of tied together. It worked out very, very well. So it would be awesome to hear 8 to 10 of that, but I'm down for another 5-song EP. Like totally down for it.
Hey, I have a question for you guys. So one thing I hear you mentioning a lot on your podcast is like asking bands if there's a sound that they would like want to hear, or something that they feel like is missing in their area. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on that? Is there like a era or style of hardcore that you guys are like really eager to hear more of?
I'll let Trevor go first on that one, because
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead. Unless you don't know, then I'll freaking go.
I don't know if you do know where I'm going.
Okay.
It's hard because we do this podcast, we listen to so much music right now, and we're kind of all over the place. Like we've talked about pop punk bands, we've talked about some like experimental type bands, then we do talk about the heavy stuff all the way to death metal. Here in Salt Lake, we've got a decent variety. The one thing we don't have is we don't have a youth crew style band, or more of this like anthem-y traditional hardcore style band. So maybe something like that would be dope to come out of Salt Lake. I'm trying to think what else though. Like we have a lot of Beatdown. We have a lot of like Shattered Realm type stuff. We've got a lot of like the fast stuff. I love breakdowns. So like, I don't necessarily want more Beatdown, but I do love the fast stuff with the breakdown in there, and maybe like an old Have Heart style would be dope to like come out here too.
Yeah, so I'm surprised he said that, because me and him argue all the time, because he's like got a hard on for Balmora and that type of metalcore, you know, like the really fast kind of emo core type metalcore.
That's fair.
That never really resonated with me. But in my like lane of being a huge sucker for melodic hardcore, my favorite band is Misery Signals. And I feel like that, like the metalcore that is true, like metal core, you know, like melodic metalcore, I feel like is kind of missed right now too. Cause you know, like I love your guys' sound. I love the melodic hardcore, but I feel like right now we're missing some like real melodic metalcore. And I'm not talking like Counterparts or things like that. You know, I'm talking even like old Parkway Drive got like melodic stuff in it. You know, like I'm missing that kind of metalcore, Misery Signal style. So I wish there was more of that. It'll like Shai Hulud is a great example.
Oh yeah,
I want the like chaotic-y melodic metalcore like Shai Hulud.
Yeah, I was just thinking. Real quick, I was just gonna say, Killing with a Smile is like by far it's probably my favorite album ever put out. First Parkway Drive, it's incredible. But I think if I heard someone try to do it, I would just try to compare it to Killing with a Smile. So like I'd just be disappointed every time. So like you gotta kind of stay away from like what you would expect. You know what I mean? So that's why I think I surprised Kyle with my answer.
Yeah. What about your guys' top 3 hardcore records? We gotta know what they are.
That's hard.
Top actual records or bands?
Or bands, yeah. Bands is probably easier.
So the band, a lot like Brian said, the first like hardcore that I actually heard was the Victory record insert with Comeback Kid, Wake the Dead. Like
Same.
I remember watching that video and just being like, this is just so cool. And I loved it. And I was listening to that. I listened to like Ringworm off of that, Stupid Victory Records one, like all that kind of stuff. So that's where we got the heavy stuff. But the first band that I got introduced to where it was like, oh, like the production wasn't like over the top, the vocals weren't quite what I was expecting, was Defeater. That first EP that they put out, what's it called? Oh man, I'm losing people here. Anyways, the first EP that they put out, the Lost Grounds EP, that is like on a pedestal for me. I love that album. It's so good. So I'll give you one right now and then think about it.
So my top 3 like actual hard, like heavy hardcore type bands, like Misery Signals, and then Sleeping Giant is probably the other one, just because that's like what we grew up on. And then Earth Crisis. So Earth Crisis is like, man, I feel like the chemistry in my body changed when I listened to it the first time, you know, like it did something to my brain, you know.
Are you going to Earth Crisis Judge Integrity in California?
I wish, dude. I wish.
Some awesome gigs, man.
Yeah, I wish. My all-time favorite band, though, of all time is Thrice.
Oh, nice.
And across the whole spectrum, I don't think they've written a bad song. I like all their sounds, you know. I think that's what's made them like so unique in my opinion, is that they have been able to jump sounds but still be Thrice, you know. Like you can listen to a song from Artists in the Ambulance to one of their newer like Psalms albums, even the Alchemy Index, you know, they did a 4-part EP album of the elements of the earth. Like, I don't know. They just, I think they're, you know, incredible musicians and stuff. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Going back, probably AFI is another one that's significantly up there for us. Like, at least for me, and I know Kyle as well. Like that was one that we used to listen to a lot. We used to listen to a lot of old AFI. Sing the Sorrow is like, granted, it's not as hardcore as punky as the other ones, but that's easily a top 3 album for me. Just
and
fantastic.
that was my introduction to straight edge, was Davey Havok.
Yeah, Davey Havok.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
he's a legend.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. You know, I don't know. It's a cool world that we live in, because, you know, we talk to all these people and we share experiences in bands, and it's like, man, we're all so similar, for better or for worse, you know. But I think that's special too, that it's such a tight knit community, and you know, we're very blessed and grateful to be able to do this and talk to people like you. And you guys are putting out some stellar music. Like, we're super excited for what you guys have coming up. We're going to do everything we can to help promote where we can. So Trevor, I just have one last question, and
go for it. You're good.
I did want to ask David, is the mustache underrated in hardcore right now?
I haven't seen a lot of them, so it must be.
Okay. Cause like I had a goatee for a while and Trevor just made fun of me forever, but like I'm seeing that pop up a little bit in hardcore, you know?
It's part of my Italian heritage, but I don't see a lot of hardcore people with just mustaches, but maybe it'll start trending.
Maybe.
Dude, it's looking good. It's looking good. The goatee look was not good for Kyle. Go back. He looked like the dude from System of a Down. Like just a little bit longer, he could have braided that thing. It was nasty.
I like it.
What about you, Brian? I mean, you're all clean cut over there, but
Yeah.
you know, you gonna rock the mustache too?
At one point I did, yeah. I even like tried the handlebar for a little while.
Ah.
Actually, like use wax and twirl it up. That was like in my earlier 20s. I tried the goatee once. I did that for like maybe like a little less than a year. And looking back on the photos, it's not as cool as I thought it was in the moment, but that's okay. I lived and I learned. But yeah, and at one point I did have a beard, like just because I wanted to like once again it was like in my early 20s. Like I think it was like when I was really starting to like have my facial hair come in full, and I just wanted to do it just to like say I had a beard at one point. But I think I probably only had it for like I don't know 4 or 5 months or something like that. Not even half a year, but it was cool. But yeah, I just always like to just completely shave, and yeah, I've been doing this for years now. So
Yeah.
We're bleaching our hair for Youth Crew Summer soon, though.
yeah,
Nice.
New Balance and bleached blonde hair.
Listen, it can't be just bleach blonde. You gotta go tips. Give us some instant, like ice tip style.
I'm into it.
I'm down for it. So, hey guys, thank you so much. Seriously appreciate you guys. Brian, thank you for the follow. And again, if it hadn't been for that, I don't know if we would have gotten to you guys when we did. So the sound is awesome. Really appreciate you guys jumping on. Anyone who's still here, go check out What's Behind Us Never Fades. It's like 15 minutes long. You got 15 minutes. Go listen to the whole thing. So say it all the time.
I know I said no other questions, but is there bands or stuff you guys want to shout out? Do you want to shout out your socials so that people can find it? I mean, we'll make sure to add it, but if there's any bands or I don't know, stuff that people you've worked with or things like that you want to shout out, go ahead.
You can go first, Brian.
Yeah, I actually have like a little list of bands I'd love to shout out. So here in Arizona, I want to shout out Next to Nothing. I want to shout out Class. There's a newer band called Brawl It In that we've played with, and we're going to be doing some upcoming shows with them as well. I'd also like to shout out Hard Luck from Phoenix. And then moving over to the Midwest, I'd like to shout out Flat Six from Cincinnati, Ohio. What Counts from Bloomington, Indiana. Also Velocity from Indiana. And then, yeah.
That's it.
Cool. Yeah, Brian pretty much covered all the local bands. I mean, I just want to say thank you to the promoters in Tucson, Still Cold Booking, our friends Chris and Issa, Mike from New Age, Hav for helping make it happen, Rippy for recording our record, Dan McCarthy. Yeah, like I said, all the people who were a part of helping us do what we do, we're just really grateful. And to you guys for having us on and giving us some airtime.
Oh, of course. So,
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Okay. Peace.
Later, guys.